Hello and welcome back to another video by Quox FPV. Today I want to show you something more about the Radiomaster Zorro. In one part I will talk about the new full metal Hall sensor gimbals which have been sent to me by Owen Lee, the CEO of Radiomaster. Thank you for sending me them for free so that I can do that review. And in the other part I want to show you a little hack how to make it possible that the radio is charging while connected via USB from the backside. For example, when you're in USB joystick mode, because I didn't like it that the battery is getting empty while connected to the PC. I can show you shortly that this already works when I switch it off and I plug in the USB on the backside. You see that the power button is turning red. And this means it is charging. How this is solved I will show you as soon as the radio is open. But now at first I will open it and then we will see. Let's go there. Before I start, you probably have already seen this blue little pack here. This is a battery extension pack which originally was installed between the two handles, what you have seen in my last video. And now over the summer I don't need the module bay. This is why I installed it now on the back of the radio. There it is a little bit out of the way and the radio itself has a little bit a better center of gravity like this. But for this video it is not important, so just don't be wondering why we have this little pack here. I'll now unmount it and put it by side for the moment. So at first I'll need to open these covers of the handles and open the screws which are holding the radio together. So I'll start here and take out the batteries, and as soon as I start unscrewing the screws I'll fast forward for you. So here now you can see that my battery case is still connected over these two little connectors from my battery pack, which will not be the case on your radio. I'll unplug those. And then there are only these other two connectors which we have to unplug, which are coming from the standard batteries. So now I can put away the back cover. Oh, there are still some screws inside. Not to lose them. And then we have it open. And here in this position we can already see my little hack which I did for the charging, which I will explain you now. So at first let's talk about what was the original situation of these connectors. So we have one connector on the bottom of the radio which is only there for charging the radio. And then we have a second USB connector at the top of the radio which is only for connecting the radio to the PC. But while connected to the upper connector, the radio was not charging. And I was wondering why this is like this, and I was asking Owen Lee for a reason for that, and he told me a very understandable answer, that it is a risk to charge a battery at the same time when you are using the radio. So that could harm your battery, and this is why he just made this for purpose, not to have a charging functionality on the USB port which is connecting to the PC. But me on my own, I would say I would like to have this functionality that it is charging while connected to the PC, so that the battery is not running empty at a certain point of time. And I take that risk for myself because when I'm using the radio on the PC, I have it in my hands, the radio, and then if something would go wrong, I would recognize it and I could react immediately. So I did it for my own risk, yeah. And if you do the same, you do it on your risk. But let's talk about what I did. My thoughts were, if this port is connected to the charging system of the radio, then the plus and the minus from this port must be connected to that charging system, I would say. And on the other side, on this port, the communication ports are communicating to that PC interface. So how can I combine those two? At the first try, I just connected a cable to this one and a cable to this one, and then it already worked. So I could use the laptop and the radio connected, and it was charging, and I could use it at the same time. But it was not the most beautiful solution, because then you have two cables connected. And I thought, how can I solve this with an internal solution? So my thoughts were, if I could route the plus and minus pins from this connector, where I connect a cable to connect the radio to the PC, and I can bring the power of this cable, so plus and minus, to the other connector, then this power would also power up the charging system of the radio. This was the easy thoughts of mine. So at first I had to find out which are the plus and the minus pins of these USB ports, and it's pretty easy. So the minus is also on the housing and also on the outer pins. I will show that later a little bit more in detail when I go closer to the camera. And the plus is just the other one. So they are on both sides of the outer pins are two thicker pins, and these are the plus and minus pins. So you have minus at the outerst, the most outer pin, and the second one from the outside on both sides is the plus pin. And then, yeah, I thought, where can I connect these pins easier? Because these solder pins of these connectors are very small. So I searched for positions on the board here where we have a direct connection to these pins. At first I thought the ground usually on these parts is always the same. So if I just measure between this and this housing, we already have a direct connection through there. So it is the same if I go to these pins, which I show you later a little bit closer. They are connected to the housing, so that works. So the minus of these two ports is already connected, so I don't need a cable there. So the only thing I would need to do is to connect the two plus pins of this and this connector. And then to make this easier, I searched around on that board where perhaps we have a better point to solder on a little cable to not destroy the soldering of these connectors, because these are so tiny. So I can show you shortly what I did. I go here on the plus pin, which I show you later, again a little bit bigger, and then I just checked if I have a direct connection somewhere, and I found it here. So nah, if I have it correctly here, it's just so tiny. Here I have this direct connection. I'll show you that point again. So this was the point where I could solder a little bit better. And on the other side, for this connector, it was the same deal. I searched for a point and I found it here, that I have a direct connection through. So I thought, when I just make a little cable which is connected from here to here, then the plus of these two connectors might be connected. And yeah, I just tried it out and it worked instantly. So now I'll come a little bit closer that you can see what I did there, but I'll need to change the focus. So I think this way you can see it. So here are the pins of the connector. You have the first and the second. First is minus, second is plus, but the first is also connected to the housing. And here you have these two little electronic parts. And on the upper side, this is the point where I found a connection to the plus of this upper connector. And down here, difficult to do. You see these little two parts, and the right side of those are direct connected to the second pin here of this connector. Here it is. And also on the other side, there's the other plus. So this way I just soldered a cable from this right side of this little part to the upper side of this little part. And after this cable was installed, it was already made that I can charge while using the radio on the PC. So this was my little battery charging hack. But now let's come back to the installation of the full metal gimbals. At the next step, I need to remove the electronics board here. And for that, I have to unplug all the connectors. And for that, it's good if you just make some little marks with a permanent marker at certain connectors, that you're sure that you find the correct connector for these cables later again. And also take a little picture of it as it looks like right now, so that later you can also find the correct cable or wiring routing again. So now I will unplug all these connectors and take off the screws of this board and take it aside. And in the meanwhile, I will again fast forward for you. So this was the lower 4 connectors on each side. And then we have left one connector here, the bigger one here, and then one on each side here. Let's do this now. So that's nearly it. I forgot 2 of them, one here and one here. Okay, that might have been it. And now I'll open the screws around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, I think. Now you see the upper 2, the black screws, you don't have to open. And then, before you can take it away, there's one more cable on the back of this plate, which you have to take off. And now you can put the whole board by side. And now we have full access to the gimbals, which we are talking about now in more detail. So now we can have a closer look on those new gimbals. They come in these beautiful little black boxes. And there are also some spare screws and a spare spring inside. And also a little explanation sheet. And of course, inside of these little boxes, there are the gimbals themselves, and they are really beautifully engineered, and they also seem to have a very nice feeling while moving them. I'm very interested to see how they work. And if we now have a look on them on the back side and compare them to the original ones, we see that they look completely the same. So everything on these adjustment screws is working completely the same. So there are 2 positions where screws are pressing on through the back cover. If you see the back cover, we have here, 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 and here 4 screws, so 2 screws on each gimbal, which go through the back cover and press on the gimbals. And these positions are again the same for the new gimbals. So one of those is here, where we can enlarge the tension of the throttle stick, so it's not moving that light anymore. And the other one presses here on this end. Don't know if you can see it here, this little thing. And if we press this, it just releases the centering of the stick. This is also just for the throttle, so it doesn't center itself anymore. But we don't have to adjust them now because they are adjusted through the back panel as I showed you. The other 2 screws, which I already mentioned in my last video, here and here, are the ones which you can adjust if you don't like the pre-tension of the springs for the movement of these sticks. So I prefer to have very loose tension here. So I screwed out these 2 screws as much as possible. So then the pre-tension of these little springs here is reduced and it's not that strong anymore. So I already prepared that for both of my gimbals. I screwed them out and now I can install them in there, and then we can have a further comparison between the old and the new gimbals. So next step, I will take out one of those gimbals. So as you could probably see, this was easily done by only screwing out the 4 screws which are on each edge of these gimbals. So now I have it out. Please don't mind about this stick end. This was designed and printed by a friend of mine, so this is not the original one anymore. And now we can also take a comparison of the gimbals from the upside. And for installation of the new gimbals, it's just the same as the disassembly, the other way around. And yeah, I will just do it and fast forward for you. So that's it. It's already installed in there. And now I'll have to do the same on the other one. Perhaps you have seen that this little knob fell out. This is installed in here. This is the little push button. It falls out pretty easy. I can take out this one as well. And we should not forget to install them later again. Perhaps at this point you perhaps already saw it on the other side. There's one cable in here which we should pay attention. This is this one, this longer one, which is going behind of that screwing point of the outer gimbal screw. We should really pay attention not to destroy this cable while screwing on the new gimbals. Okay, now when all the screws are installed, I would say we turn around the radio and double check if all the gaps are fine and everything looks correctly. And in my case, I think it's all good. So then I would go on with installation the rest of the components again. So at this point, I just found out that it is a nonsense to mark the connectors with a permanent marker, because when you're exchanging the gimbals, you will not have the marked connectors anymore, because you have new gimbals inside now. So there's no way around to just turn on the radio when you have connected everything and also the battery in there, and then just try it out. If the gimbals are going into the correct directions. If not, you'll have to switch some of these cables. So let's just try it out and see what happens. So the first thing I found out is that already all my buttons do not work. So I probably did something wrong. Ah, no, I just did not connect them at all. So let's try it again. So the right gimbal looks good. And the left as well. I am a lucky one. Yes, and all these buttons are also working. That looks good to me. So I'm lucky I don't have to change any connectors. Perfect. Then when you're closing the back cover, pay attention that all these cables are not laying on any screwing points. Otherwise it could happen that you harm these cables while closing the cover. Et voilà, es ist geschafft. it is done. So finally I could reinstall everything. Due to my little battery case, it was a little bit more hassle, but in the end I made it. And now next step, we have to switch it on and to do a calibration of these new gimbals. So to calibrate the gimbals, we go into the menu by pressing the system button. Then we go to the page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there we find the point calibration. We press enter. He asks me to start, press enter. Now I should set the sticks into the midpoint. I can do so. Now I press enter again. Then I should move the sticks. I'll do so. I go in each direction in the maximum. Can also go into all corners. And then I release it in the middle again. I say enter, and that's it. Now we press return, and we can go to another page where we see the exact values. And now if you move the sticks, you should always see the 100, minus 100, 100, minus 100, minus 100, 100, minus 100, and 100. So this way it is completely calibrated and we are done. I hope you liked the video. I also hope that you liked my little charging hack. If it is like that, please leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, or also give me an abo for my YouTube channel. I would be very happy. Thank you and goodbye.